Okay, we roll in here. I guess part three. Continued from, I guess it would have been like August, somewhere between August and September, around there, of 2022. And, well, quite a few other things transpired in that time as well. But, so, so while the judge was vacant from the office, or vacated the office, there was a period of time in which there was not a judge in the office. And so Susie, Susie's the name of this woman that I had to remove from my property in August 2022. And she was still upset that I exercised my right and my responsibility to defend myself against the violence that she was initiating. So she was still miffed about that, and so she took advantage of this period where there was no judge in the courthouse, to assume the role of a judge. So yeah, very good there. You went from law clerk to judge in less than 6 months, and that's got to be a historical promotion anywhere, really. So she escalated even further Maria's fraudulent claim, which I had already proved was no grounds for the claim whatsoever. But then I provided material evidence. I gave the other party, boy, at this point, it would have been well over a year to provide evidence to support their claims, and uh, and or respond to any of my offers and all these things. Oh my gosh. And so, by some, when I say other things had transpired since then, so there was a lot of construction defects I had to address. I was nonstop, major construction projects from, well, pretty much from the day I moved in all the way up until October of last year, 2023. And then I had started the permaculture as well, and done an extensive amount of landscaping and reforesting, and planted a vegetable garden and some fruit and nut trees, and quite a lot of food, and it was just getting to be too much for me to keep up with all that, plus living off grid. I mean, just the chores for the permaculture and the off grid chores were two full-time jobs. A labor of love for sure, but at the end of that, I just did not have the time and energy to, and I didn't want to live across the street anymore from these violent psychopaths. So I decided to leave my house in the hands of some people who I knew would take care of it. And if they can manage for 6 months and they believe they can do what I used to do by myself, then I'll leave the house to them in my will. Now, 6 days before they moved in, one of the tenants, I call them a tenant because they're not renting, I'm not getting rent, it's work exchange. Like I said, it's two full-time jobs, keeping up with that house and that garden. There's no way I can ask somebody to do all that, plus find some time to go to work and come up with some money to pay me for rent. So, but anyway, 6 days before they moved in, the wife, she gets a phone call, or not a phone call, but a text message, like a voicemail, from a mutual friend, like a third, fourth, fifth party outside of the contract between me and Maria. Tells my tenant, you shouldn't move into Teddy's house because they're planning to evict her in the next 30 days. And the only reason that they haven't evicted her already is because they can't find her. And don't move into her house, because if she's not there to evict, then they will evict you and your family, and you won't even have a moment's notice to grab a diaper bag. All your things in your house will be seized. Literally. This is what another violent psychopath, best friend of George and Maria, also from Mexico City, career criminal, trust fund baby, just really crazy woman named Celia. And she relayed that message, that threat, to, because you see, in this way, like, if my tenants would have got scared and not moved in, and I would have moved out, then the house would be vacant. And that's what they want. They want that house. Everybody wants that house. It's the one and only house like in all of Mexico like that. And maybe all the world. I don't know. And, that's the only way they can come over there and steal my house and everything inside of it, is if I'm not there or someone's not there to be living in it. And so, also right before or right after the tenants moved in, another text message, and this one came directly from Maria's attorney, again disclosing privileged information that is between me and his client to a third party who does not have a power of attorney for me and is not a registered agent for me. It's out of order. It's not the proper procedures to follow in the legal system, right? If you're gonna, oh my gosh, like, anyway. So he sends a message saying, yeah, Maria sued Teresa and she won the case, which she didn't. She never sued me. She filed a demand, and I answered the demand, proving that she doesn't own the property. And anyway, he said, and at this point, it's like 400,000 pesos that they're coming. They're saying that I owe Maria 400,000 pesos more on top of the 1.2 I've already given her for land that she doesn't own. And in order to cash in on that 400,000 pesos, they're going to just come and throw some people, a family of 4 with 2 small children, on the street violently without a moment's notice. They're going to seize my house, all my things inside the house, all the capital improvements I made to the property, plus the personal property of my tenants. So all told, somewhere around 9 or 10 million pesos worth of personal and private property that they're going to come and seize to satisfy a 400,000 peso alleged debt stemming from a promissory note, not a contract, a promissory note, to buy a piece of land from Maria that doesn't belong to her. If you think that's crazy, just wait. We're just getting started. And then, of course, many, many, many third and fourth and fifth. I mean, there was, I lost track of how many times people came and violently trespassed on the property, either just before I moved out or just after I moved out, and trespassed on the renters, including on the 1st of May this year, so it's 2024, right? There was another violent trespass made upon my renters, and they broke and entered into the house. They let themselves into the house, and when the wife came downstairs, she grabbed her phone and turned on the recording on her phone to film this act of breaking and entering. And she went downstairs, and they were sticking this piece of paper in the door, trying to get her to accept a piece of paperwork for me. And again, these people are not my registered agent, and they don't have power of attorney for me. And it's well illustrated throughout the case file that the only method acceptable to communicate your legal correspondence to me is through the Mexican post office, not by way of violent trespass and unannounced visits. I won't accept that. But they're trying to shove the paperwork in the door, and she got it on video too. Wouldn't have believed it unless I saw it on the video. Oh, maybe I would have done, because these people are psychopaths. But it was, again, Maria's attorney, but this time was a new person at the court, because Susie, the lady who was miffed, the one I mentioned in the previous video, she was pissed off at me still for having exercised my right and responsibility to remove her from my property when she was initiating trespass and violence. And during that 30-day or however many day period it was from the time the judge had to recuse himself and the office was vacant, she decided to take on the role of judge and cast a judgment on the demand that I had won the case, but she's going to pretend like I didn't. And then she's going to escalate it to the point of eviction process. So now you're literally physically coming to remove me, not just me, but the people in my house, and steal everything. And so Susie didn't. She knew better than to come back on my property. So she sent some other girl from the office. And they're all on video. Anyway. My tenant, I was very, very impressed with the way she handled it. It was perfect. She basically said, you need to leave, and she went over to try to close the door, but they stuck their foot in the door and wouldn't let her close the door. And she finally got them to back off out of the doorway, and she closed the door, and then they started coming to the windows and trying to talk to her in the windows, so she was closing the windows. And she kept saying, if you need to talk to Teresa, you need to talk to Teresa. Like, leave me out of it, you know? And eventually they left, but they promised to return 30 days later, aka today. Now, let me say that within 2 or 3 days from this latest violent act of trespass, the Celia character comes back again, and she decides to set fire to the parcels of land that surround my property. I don't really have words to describe the level of irresponsibility and just plain stupid behavior that you set a fire to a large swath of a dry forest, and you don't have any, like, you're not a fireman, you're not a farmer, you don't have any background of knowledge about forest fires and how to contain them and stuff. And it's getting windy now because we're coming out of the spring and into the summer, so the winds are picking up, and she just sets fire to all the land around my house. What's the purpose of that? I don't know. Try to scare the tenants out, smoke them out, burn them out. I don't know what the hell. Really, I can only speculate. But it was stupid and very irresponsible and completely illegal, as she was already warned on the 2nd of March during one of many of her violent trespasses. She's been warned many times to stay away by the police, but she just, oh, you're a trust fund baby. You've never been told no in your life. You just buy everything you want. So she just ignores the police and continues to come, and now she set fire to the property. And the little boy living in my house, the sweet little boy, his name is, I won't say his name. He's a child of 4. And he was severely burned. And, I got wind of this, of course, and my tenant sent me a picture of the boy's foot. And I went over there, and all right, I just don't know. This is where I get it gets a little difficult for me to be diplomatic and not too emotional. But, like, you can fuck with me all you want, right? That's one thing. But you start fucking with my guests in my house, and now you're injuring a small child. I'm about to lose my shit, people. I'm about to lose my shit. And I'm going to just say one thing for sure. These folks are damn lucky they didn't run into me 20 years ago. None of them would be alive. I promise you that. But that's not I don't do that anymore. I don't do that anymore. Anyway. Yeah, that was 3 days later. And then they promised to come back. So I was like, this is it. I'm going to type up a cease and desist order. I'm going to say, y'all need to stop sending your violent trespassers from the courthouse or any other third or fourth or fifth parties coming over. You need to stop. Stop right now. And insofar as this escalation of it, this continued escalation of a fraudulent claim that Maria's making against me, y'all need to remand that case back down to the lower court, because a preliminary review, just flipping through the first 10 pages of the document, is grossly negligent and so full of errors. It's the sloppiest piece of legal paperwork I have ever come across in my life. What do I mean by that? Well, first of all, there's Maria's cover letter here saying that, yeah, Teddy owes me and I'm gonna blah, blah, blah. And this is my evidence that I'm gonna support my claim that she owes me this money. And the first piece of evidence she introduced was a fraudulent, we would call it a title document, but it's a document from the notary's office that codifies the land, and it says this is this parcel number and this is associated cadastro código, literally church's code, so you can get taxed to live in your own house. And she indicates on this document that according to this document of the notary's office, that and these cadastral codes and whatever, that this is hers. So well, it was at the same time that the judge was accusing himself, that he advised the notary, who's also part of the fraud, hey, you better distance yourself from this, because this Tere, she's not a dumb bunny. She's on to us and she knows what's going on, and she has called it out in writing. And they kept telling me, you need to hire an attorney. You need to hire an attorney. No, I don't. No, I don't. I will not. Absolutely not. Nope. Because the attorney won't have the balls to sit in front of the judge and question the authority of the judge. The attorney won't have the balls to say, hey, the evidence illustrates that you, Mr. Judge, are part of the fraud. No way. So, anyway, I don't know. So, at the same time that the judge recused himself, he let the notary know, and the notary pulled those documents from the public record. So, like, and I just came across this website, Por fin, finally. I've only been asking for this information for over 3 years now. There's got to be a way to take some kind of identifying code for the property and plug it into a database and determine whether or not, what does the tax records indicate. If the tax records indicate that the land belongs to Maria, then that's one piece of evidence in her favor. So she introduced that, but she doesn't know this. But the attorney in Tepic redacted in its entirety, the entire document, all her fake, lot numbers, and with the revenue cadastral codes and all the other stuff. The notary redacted it in its entirety. So, okay, so that's your first piece of evidence, a non-existent public record. It did used to exist, but because here it is in a paper copy, but what does that mean? Like, if it's not there anymore, did somebody make a mistake? Because there was at least 27 different stamps and signatures all over this document. And they love their stamps. Oh my God, they love their stamps here. It's hilarious when you go into the bank, because they're like especially pissed off. That's gotta be like the worst job in the world as a bank teller. You're where they're getting paid minimum wage and you're just watching cash flow across the counter every day. Somebody comes in, I want to withdraw 50,000 pesos, and you're like, I don't make 50,000 pesos in a year. Anyway, I can imagine what it would feel like in dealing with other customers and the general public and, you know, constant surveillance and all the fluorescent lights and stuff. So yeah, I get it. I'd be in a grumpy mood too if I had to work in the bank. But if I had me a stamp, because they'd be like, bam, bam, just like they're taking out their frustrations. Hey, Tekka. Oh, what you doing, sister? This is my friend Tekka. Say hi, Tekka. Can you say hi? What you have to say about all that legal bullshit? Huh? What you have to say about all that? That's crazy, isn't it? Them humans is crazy as hell. Anyway. Yeah, she's probably like, you should put the camera down and come with me to the beach. Anyway, I got distracted with the dog. Alright, where were we? Yeah, okay, and then the second piece of information that Maria filed, well, Maria didn't file it. Susie put it in the case file. The second piece of information to support Maria's claims that I owe her money was a piece of paper submitted by, or a document rather, submitted by a guy that I don't even know, way back when they first issued the demand in 2022. An attorney for Pablo, the guy that Maria bought the land from. And the attorney said she never made the payments for the land. She never finished the payments, so it's not hers. That is literally the second piece of evidence. So that's, as far as I remember, that was the only two pieces of evidence that Maria submitted in this latest escalation. And both pieces of evidence argue in my favor. So, along with the cease and desist order, I instructed that the case needs to go back for remand to fix these errors and omissions and to clarify that Maria, by the way, there's no power of attorney indicated anywhere throughout the entire case file. There's nowhere, anywhere in the case file I can see that Maria is being represented by an attorney. And it's, maybe there was and they just left it out or something. I don't know. But I'm not going to presume anything. I need to see that she's being represented. What's her power of attorney? Where's her, who's making these claims on her behalf? And there is no power of attorney. There is no attorney that's signed on this latest escalation that Maria signed. She made that claim herself. Her attorney left her ass flapping in the wind. And so did her little friends in the notary's office too, because they withdrew this so-called piece of evidence that she was using. I said, you need to remand this case because I need to know, one, does Maria have a power of attorney or is she making these claims on her own? Is she being represented or is she presenting this on her own? It looks like she's doing it on her own, but I want to be sure. In other words, that's code for, I want to be certain that everybody else who's involved in this process, from the notary to the judge to the law clerk and every other trespasser who's come on my property in the name of this courthouse, is distancing themselves from Maria. This is what we call isolating the defendant, because that's going to be the defendant is Maria. Yeah, and just one little small detail too here with this case being so sloppily put together. Can somebody please show me the signature block where Susie gets the authorization to pass judgments? Like, if the judge's office is vacated, then that case file needs to sit on the judge's desk until a new judge comes in. Shouldn't be no law clerk coming in there and grabbing my file and making a unilateral decision pretending to be the judge. Just, yeah, remand the case. So, I took this letter up. We're at 24 minutes. Man, this is crazy. Well, I am going back 3 years in time here, so I'll try to finish this up. No, I can't. I'm going to have to put it in the next video. Shit. It's like a soap opera or something. I think this is going to be like a soap opera. Let me see if I can get this last video done in 10 minutes or less.